Today is Tuesday, September 28th, 2010, and I am interviewing Dennis Beavers. He is 62 years old. He was born on October 29th, 1947. My name is Cavin Beavers, and I will be the interviewer. Could you state the recording what war and branch of service you served in?
Alright, I didn't spend time in the war, but I was a veteran during the Vietnam era. I didn't go to Vietnam, okay? But I was a veteran in the United States Navy during the war.
What was your rank?
I was an E4, a third-class petty officer in the United States Navy.
Where did you serve?
I served in Jacksonville, Florida. Well, I went to boot camp up in Great Lakes, Illinois. And then I was stationed in Jacksonville, Florida, where I went to what they call A school. Where in A school I learned how to be a legal yeoman. Okay? And then I was stationed in Jacksonville, Florida, Yuma, Arizona, and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba.
How many years were you in the service?
I was in the service for almost 4 years and 6 months.
So you served in the U.S. Navy. Where were you living at the time?
At that time, I was a young man up in Chesterton, Indiana.
How did you happen to serve in this war?
Well, again, I wasn't in the war. I was in the military during Vietnam. And when I was growing up, there was a thing called the draft. And when you turned 18 and got out of high school, you either went to college or you had to join the military, or they drafted you into the Army automatically. So I decided to enlist into the Navy instead of going into the Army.
What were you doing before you were drafted or enlisted?
I was in high school. I went there right out of high school.
Did anyone else in your family serve in the military?
Yes, my brother did. My youngest brother, Craig, served in the Marine Corps.
Can you tell me about adapting to military life?
Well, when you first join the military, you go to a thing called boot camp. And boot camp is normally 12 to 16 weeks long. And it's a method where the military trains you how to become a military person. Whether it's in the Navy or the Army or the Marine Corps or the Air Force, everyone has to go to boot camp. And it's kind of like almost brainwashing, where they train you how to be a military person, because in the military is very, very important to learn how to take orders. And to take orders and obey them immediately. And the reason for that is by obeying orders and to do it immediately, you can save someone's life if you are in a battle or if you're in a fight. You learn how to wear your uniforms. You learn how to get up early, stay up late. You learn how to react in boot camp it's very physical. You have a lot of exercises to do, and you have a lot of mental things to do. Boot camp was very difficult. But after you got out of boot camp, you adjusted to military life. And military life is very disciplined and very structured.
How was the food?
Depended where you were. When I was stationed in Jacksonville, in boot camp, the food wasn't very good. Because basically all they wanted to do was feed you and get you out of there. Because when I was in the military, it was during Vietnam. And just to give you an example, up at Great Lakes, boot camp, they were processing 10,000 sailors every week through boot camp. So they were just, it was more, feed you and get you out the door. You know what I'm saying? Now, when I was stationed in Florida, the food was decent. It was okay. The best place I ever had food was when I was stationed in Yuma, Arizona. Believe it or not, it was a Marine Corps base, and I was stationed there for almost a year. And that was the best food I ever had, and it was really good. And then down in Cuba, again, it was average. It wasn't bad. Sometimes it was very good. Sometimes it was very bad.
How did you choose the branch of service you served in?
Well, at that time, as I told you, Vietnam was going on. It was a very, I don't know how to say this, you'll have to check your history books, but it wasn't, it was a very unpopular war with America. The American servicemen and women didn't get supported by the American people like the service people are today, and that wasn't a good thing. But I knew that if I went into the Army or the Marine Corps, my chances from coming back from Vietnam alive were not very good. Because a lot of people died in Vietnam. A lot of military men and women died in Vietnam. Matter of fact, your grandma's uncle was killed in Vietnam. But I felt that if I joined the Navy, my chance of surviving the war, even if I did go to Vietnam, would be greater because I could be on a ship instead of on land, walking through the jungles. I just thought my survivability was better in the Navy than it would be in the Army or the Marine Corps or the Air Force.
What kind of training did you have?
Well, of course, we had boot camp, and that was just basic military training. But then I went to school, to an A school, down in Jacksonville, Florida. I was one of the very few men in the Navy that knew how to type. Use a typewriter, okay? And I took typing in high school. I just did it, So they wanted me to become a legal yeoman. Now, do you know what? I'll explain that. I was like a legal clerk in civilian life, but I was the person who was on, like if a person goes to court today, you see that person on the machine typing out what the people say. They call that a stenographer. Well, in the military, they call courts with judges and so on and so forth, court martials. And I was the stenographer for court martials. In other words, if someone got in trouble in the military and they went to court, to a court martial, I took down the court proceedings and then transcribed them into written form. So I did training there. You're always trained in the military on discipline, physical training every day, those types of things.
Did any friendships form?
Oh yes, I had my very best friend that I had in the military. His name was Barry Trump. His middle name was Allen. So if you see his Barry Allen Trump. Well, if you put his initials together, B-A-T, it spells what? Bat. We call him Bat. A very good friend of mine. Barry and I hung out together. Matter of fact, we went to boot camp together. We ended up in Jacksonville, Florida together. And then when I went out to Yuma, Arizona, he got stationed in San Diego, California. So that wasn't very far away, Arizona and California. So we visited each other once in a while we were stationed. But when I went to Cuba, he got sent to Vietnam. So, and I had other friends. I have a picture here of myself and two other guys. Right here, see that? That's me in the middle. And that guy's name is Tom Ragusa. is from New York, and we called him Rags. Okay, this guy here was Ron Wilson, and we were real close friends. We shared the same room. We were all petty officers, and we shared the same room in the barracks. Good buddies.
Do you have any other things to show?
Well, I have some other pictures. That's me in my uniform right out of boot camp in the middle there, in my sailor uniform. Okay. This is me down in Yuma, Arizona, when I was stationed there. And Yuma, Arizona is located in the desert. Okay? And that's a lizard on my shirt. Like this. See it? There you go. Okay. This is the Blue Angels. They're a precision stunt flying team, and their jets were parked on the airstrip in Yuma, Arizona, and I walked right up to it and took that picture. Well, Yuma, Arizona is also very close to Mexico. So when I was in Yuma, I went to Mexico, and this is a picture of a bullfight. Probably hard to see, but I went to a bullfight while I was down in Mexico. About the only two things I saved from the Navy is I still have my dog tags. And what a dog tag is you wear one on a chain around your neck. Then there's another smaller chain where it goes on like this. Okay? And what the dog tags is, it gives your name, your service number, and I remember my service number, B501804. That's something I'll never forget because it's drilled into you. It tells you the branch of service you're in, your blood type, and the type of church you go to or your religion. Okay? Well, why do you think blood type is important? So that if you're injured in a battle, they leave this one dog tag on you. They take this dog tag so they can tell your blood type. Mine is A positive. If you happen to be killed in a battle, then they take one of your dog tags, leave the other dog tag on your body so they can report your death. And then the other thing, I didn't save a lot of things from the Navy, but this is a gold-plated lighter with the United States Navy emblem on it. I saved that. And there's a few other things I have in storage, but I didn't pick them out from the end. I don't know where they're at right now.
Do you have any stories?
Well, in Cuba, this picture that I showed you here, remember I told you I was in the Navy, but you notice we're wearing all marine greens? It's not a Navy uniform, is it? Well, in Cuba, we were all required to defend the base because we were located in Cuba, and right across from the fence line was Castro, okay? And so we were all required to carry weapons, and we had to play war games and all those things. I was in charge of a missile rocket launching team and a rifle team in Cuba, and we guarded a road. And every vehicle that came through we were at that checkpoint, okay, I had to stop them and ask them the password and check their IDs. And in the Navy, the highest rank there is in the Navy is an admiral. That's a big shot, okay? So, one of the guys on my rifle team, they asked me, what would you do if the admiral's Jeep came up? I said, I'd stop him. And what would you do if he didn't know the password? I said, I'd have to detain him. And see, no more got that out of his mouth than here comes this admiral's Jeep up. And I put my hand up and stopped him. Saluted him like I'm supposed to, and said, good afternoon, sir. May I have the password? Or the password for the day. And it changes all the time because you don't want the enemy to know what it is. Was green apple. Well, he didn't know the password, and I had to detain him and arrest him because he didn't know the password. And those were my orders. No matter if he's an an admiral or not? And there was an admiral, a captain, a couple lieutenants. So I had to arrest all of them because they didn't know that they forgot to get the password. But if I wouldn't have arrested them, then they would have arrested me and put me in jail. So I arrested them, and that was a big joke around the base, is how I arrested the admiral, stuff like that. And there's a lot of stories. I got to travel a lot in the military with my friends in Florida and California and Arizona and the Caribbean. I got to go to Bermuda, the Bahamas. So I had some nice things, nice trips. And I also was as I told you, I was a legal human. It was very interesting. I sit on court martials. And I had to sit on court martials for people who, unfortunately, committed murder and all kinds of things in the military. And I got to record them. Of course, if you record them, you get to hear everything. It was a very interesting job. I really liked it. Okay? That's about it.
Okay.
You have any other questions?
Nope.
You sure that's it? Check.